Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, brothers in arms, World of Warships, and today's video we're going to take a look at a Kraken game that I had here in the Republique, the Tier 10 French battleship. I'm divvied up with my buddy Putin, and he's playing in the Salem, the Tier 10 American Premium Heavy Cruiser, and we're playing some domination on Sea of Fortune. So the Republique here on World of Warships, what do you need to know about this Tier 10 French battleship? Well, this is the very first replay that I have ever uploaded on the channel, and I gotta say, I've played quite a few games in this thing. I did unlock it, I think, a month ago, or maybe I just haven't played it until about a month ago, but this is a ship that is honestly a lot of fun to play, and if you can mitigate the weaknesses, like with all other ships, you can have some pretty impressive results in this French behemoth. Now, it kind of blurs the line between a battleship and a battle cruiser. Obviously, its in-game designation is a battleship, and it is, represented as such. However, there are two things about the Republique that you must take into consideration if you want to have consistently good games in this thing. The first is that it does have some shaky armor. Of course, not in belt armor thickness, but everywhere else. The superstructure, the bow and the stern, the deck armor, all of it is 32 millimeters. And what this basically means is that IFHE from 155s, 152s, and then of course 203 guns and up, 203 millimeter guns and up, that is, are able to deal raw, high explosive damage to you. So this is a battleship that should think twice before moving in to try and tank enemy shell fire. It's also on the low end of hit points for Tier 10 battleships, sitting at 92,400. So this is a thing that you really don't want to be taking focus fire in, like you can in a Yamato, a Montana, or a Kurfürst, much more so. The second part about the Republique is the performance of the guns. It has a very unique setup. 8 431 millimeters in caliber. And while the caliber of the guns are certainly battleship-esque, it's the reload that makes this thing a little bit more dangerous, at least on the DPM side of things. Just over 21 seconds if you run main battery modification 3. So this is a battleship that can throw rounds downrange faster than virtually every other battleship in its matchmaking tier. So when you're trying to angle or you're trying to maneuver in between Republique salvos, it is a little bit more difficult because the reload is that much faster. To put it into perspective, a Montana, a Yamato, a Kurfürst with main battery mod 3 can get their main guns all the way down to about 26.2 seconds. So with main battery modification 3, you're able to have about a 5-second faster reload than all of your contemporaries. And you can also see, as my shells landed on Bill Schmuckatelli and the Montana, that they have fantastic penetration. And contrary to popular belief, these guns actually have better pen than the Yamato, out to about 16 to 17 kilometers. These guns hit like freaking monster trucks, and as long as RNG throws you a bone, as is the case with most battleships, you're going to have some very meaty salvos. Now, to be fair, in my experiences, the Montana and the Yamato are both much more accurate than this thing. With only 8 guns, there is a certain limit to the kind of alpha strike that you can, wield out on enemy ships. Trying to dev strike cruisers from near full health to nothing is a lot more difficult in the Republique, not because of the shell performance, but again, because you only have 8 shells going down range. Now, the enemy Montana that went close to the B cap took a lot of torpedoes. He is flooding. He is going to be dead here. It's just a question of who gets the kill. You can see that I get pretty good RNG on that salvo, and I actually pick up the first blood in a battleship, dealing just over 10,000 points of damage to that Tier 10 American BB. Some of the other things about the Republique really quickly. The AA is okay. If you do fully spec it, it is not Montana-esque, but it does get the job done. The ship is amongst the fastest battleships in the game, with a base speed of 30 knots before you consider that it has the speed boost and also running the Sierra Mike flag. So, case in point, this thing is able to get to around 35 knots without too much of issue in a straight line, and it is able to move about the battlefield pretty much unlike all other battleships in the game, with maybe the exception of the Iowa and the Missouri. The concealment on the ship, 18 kilometers stock. It's 13.5 kilometers when you are fully spec'd for concealment, which is right in line with all of the other Tier 10 battleships, short of the Conqueror. So, how do you play this thing? Well, if you've noticed, I really haven't been too far up in the front line. I've wanted to maintain a good position in the mid-ranges of combat. This thing, from 13 to 18 kilometers, is where I consider the bread and butter of this ship to be. Where you're close enough, where your RNG, as you can see on that big meaty hit right there, of over 20,000 damage to that Montana, where you're able to get big meaty salvos, potentially, and obviously RNG is a little bit less affected, or your RNG is a lot less affected the closer that you get, of course. So putting shots downrange in those medium-ish ranges, you're going to be getting a lot more consistently good salvos on all types of ships that you shoot at. And then, of course, having the fast reload, you can get salvos downrange off a lot quicker than your contemporaries, and it makes this thing very difficult to deal with in kiting engagements, and it also makes it difficult to deal with, like I said, in those medium-level engagements where you're able to use your superior DPM, or at least your superior reload, to much greater effect. So here at the beginning of the game, we've already killed 3 ships. The enemy team, however, does have control of the B cap, and they have controlled the A cap for some time. So even though we do have the early advantage, and I'm already up to 67,000 points of damage, the enemy team is going to get the scores back in their favor a little bit here. Now you can see that looking at the minimap, the only thing that's remotely close to the C cap is the enemy Kutuzov sitting in the smoke that's just off my port bow. There's also the Montana running away, and there's not an enemy destroyer in sight, as both of them have been spotted west of the 6 line. So I figure, you know what, I'm going to go get on the C cap and try to get it for my team, and then try to wheel around to the south and then west to kind of get a flanking position on the enemies that are situated west of the B cap. And like I said, because this thing is so fast, being able to kite around and being able to flex around the map is one of the bread and butter pros that the Republique offers you once you finally grinded through the Alsace. And quite frankly, when you play the Alsace, which is objectively a pretty good battleship, and the Richelieu at tier 8, which is okay, you kind of get that need for speed feel when you finally get to those French behemoths. So, you know, being able to flex around and get to where you need to be is something that should already be ingrained in your mind and your playstyle with these things. So the Kutuzov does continue to shoot at me at long range. You can see that an enemy Kurfürst that is just west of the B cap is actually moving into the very narrow channel that's on the west side of the B capture point, and it's right about now that I notice it, as he's about 13 kilometers away, so I am getting a little bit too close for comfort here. However, I am going to be able to get this C cap, and if you notice, the Kutuzov that is out in front of me is getting ready, and there he goes, he's smoking up, so I do pick up the assisted base capture here, but now this is something that is notwithstanding to the Republique, but just good skill in general, being able to keep a nice steady wrist when you see ships go off detection, and keep your horizontal aiming point right where their hull touching the waterline was last spotted. And I do manage to get the nice blind fire into the smoke with the Citadel, taking off that tier 8 premium Soviet light cruiser from the board and really opening up things for my team and myself as well, because if I would have wanted to continue pushing south through sea, which has been my plan all along, getting spammed by the Mikhail Kutuzov would have not been very ideal. And as I mentioned, this thing has not the armor on the stern, the bow, and all those other places short of the belt armor. And a Kutuzov is actually a pretty good counter to the ship if you are trying to push in, as are all of the other light cruisers with IFHE. Now, I am in a little bit of a pickle here, but I'm assuming that the Kurfürst is not going to shoot at me, because not only is my friend Putin a lot closer to him, but there's other targets that I would imagine that he's going to shoot at. So I am making quite a bit of a risk here. One thing that I did forget to mention, the Republique kind of has a turtleback. It's not as good as the Germans, and you can get citadeled in this thing, but it is not nearly as likely as getting citadeled in something like a Musashi or a Yamato. I've noticed that the ship does take citadels at those medium ranges, 13 to 18, if you are flashing a full broadside, and the enemy battleship is able to get a little bit of a penetration down into the waterline before the shells hit. But I will admit that those are kind of few and far between, and overall you can count on this armor not really screwing you that bad when you do have to flash a broadside. Now, of course, that does not mean sail broadside. I'm not implying that. I just wanted to let you guys know that. However, the enemy team has actually decided to move back over here. I am at an angle where I can citadel this Yamato underneath his A turret in the barbette. However, there is a Z-52 and a Bismarck that have moved back. I still have 69,000 hit points. However, I am moving into the range of the Bismarck's secondaries, which is not good. I get 3 juicy overpens on that German destroyer. And right now, what I'm going to try and do here is I really need to get this Yamato off the board, because he has the most dangerous guns left for the enemy team, and he is in a central position, being able to shoot at my friends out in front of me. So hopefully I can be able to finish off this guy right here, and finally the RNG gives me a bone, and I do 23,000 points of damage with only 1 citadel, but a couple of penetrations. And now the Bismarck has actually managed to get within my secondary range. My buddy Timay in the Montana manages to finish him off, so now I'm going to kind of jerk around with this Bismarck right here. I did come down to a stop just so I could keep the angle on the Yamato to get that last salvo off. and now I'm going to move forward. Fortunately, because the Kutuzov was dead, that Montana has continued to move away to the south, southwest, and now to the northwest. But I've been angled to him pretty much the entire time. And now I'm actually going to try to get a cheeky salvo here at Schmuckatelli once again. Unfortunately, I aimed just a little bit too high, but I still managed to get a very nice salvo of 11,500 with a few overpens and a couple of penetrations. I do done goof right here, as I really should be moving around the island a little bit further to get my rear gun into play. I want to get that nice juicy shot right into the A turret barbette, which is exactly what I do, but unfortunately the rear turret does hit the island. I still deal 14,000 damage and change with just the front turret. However, I do get very unlucky right here, and this is one of the things about the Republique that isn't as good. The torpedo belt is not nearly as effective as ships like the Yamato and the Musashi. So even on an angled broadside hitting right underneath the midsection of the ship, I still do flood. Now that Z-52 is going to cause a problem for me. However, he decides to give away his position by trying to smoke up his Montana. Well, at least that's what I think that he was trying to do. So now that I know where the Z-52 is, I am able to angle to where he is, because, well, duh, I know exactly where he is. And I'm sorry that I said is so many times. I didn't really articulate that very well. Anyway, I get another meaty salvo into Schmuckatelli, and now I do turn hard to starboard to try and angle to his next salvo. And I am going to angle just enough right here. When you are able to shoot both of your turrets, you are at just a decent enough angle to not get completely rickrolled by the return fire. And now I am charging down this Z-52. Now I'm going to be able to crack 30 knots of speed here as I'm going to try and get the kill on this guy. All I need is a couple over penetrations to be able to sink him. I'm going to make a slight turn to the left. I'm going to fire a blind salvo at where his gun's shot from, and I do pick up the Confederate, and then I slowly move back to the right. And when you know it, RNG throws me a nice Republic wide-sized gap in the torpedoes. The second set is a little bit off to the right of my ship, that is. And now with 15 seconds left on the repair, I know that I am Gucci. I'm going to go in and, yeah, hey Z-52, what's up, buddy? He's not going to live through this salvo. And I pick up high caliber and the since gone 4-goal hull medal as I secure my 4th frag of the game. I'm up to 213,000 points of damage, which is some very good stuff. 4 medals picked up so far. And now, at this point in the game, it's 760, make that 774 to 228. We have 2 caps out of 3, and there's no way that we can possibly throw this, so now I'm just trying to get a little bit extra damage done before this game ends. However, there's going to be one nice meaty salvo upcoming here on this Buffalo. I did try to loop some shells over the corner of the island on the Minotaur, but unfortunately he moved just a little bit too fast. He's actually charging down our Cleveland. Now right here, this Buffalo makes a big mistake. The first salvo that goes down range at him, obviously, I'm imagining that he sees my shells, so he decides to turn into his starboard side. However, this is where the advantage of the Republique's reload comes into play. He's now going to try to make a turn to the left, but because Adrenaline Rush is also kicking in, my reload was just over 17 seconds right there at about 1/3 hit points. So he's not able to make his turn in time. I aim up a little higher than I should. Oh yeah, 26,900 damage with a Citadel and a couple other juicy penetrations. Now I'm going to go for the kill shot here, hopefully to get the Kraken. And like I said, about 1/3 hit points, down to just over 17 seconds on the reload. Cruisers at the high tiers that have the crappier maneuverability sometimes just don't give you enough respect. And I do get the couple over pens that I need to pick up my Kraken Unleashed on that Tier 9 American heavy cruiser. And that right there, that reload that makes the Republique so dangerous, combined with being able to get out on the flank, get in open water, use the speed to flex around the battlefield, and make your presence felt, is really how this ship should be played. And I'm definitely not cherry-picking this particular result. In the first few games that I've played in the ship, I have had some very consistent, high-damage, high-impact games, and it's simply because the ship is the master of flexing at the high tiers. So with that being said, let's take a look at the post-battle results. Alrighty guys, taking a look at the post-battle results, 542,000 credits received and 11,690 total experience earned. This was my first win of the day. I picked up 4-goal haul, Confederate, Kraken Unleashed, First Blood, and High Caliber, dealing 242,000 points of damage off of 80 shell hits. I sank 5 enemy ships, had 5 citadels, 1 assisted base capture, and even 55 cheeky hits with the secondaries. Taking a look at the team score, 2,538 base experience, easily tops on the team. My buddy Puddin, unfortunately, finished in the bottom half in his Salem, but he got, at least what he told me was he kind of got screwed over because the Kurfürst had some really good dispersion. Right before he died, he did get his front turrets off, and I think he killed Puddin for like 20k or something like that. But hey, get good, Puddin. Taking a look at the detailed report. 228,000 damage dealt with the AP, 6,900 dealt with the secondaries, and another 6,200 with the fires that I set. 1.7 million potential damage is a pretty decent number, at least for this ship in my opinion. But also look at the damage that I dealt above. The Montana took 72,000, the Buffalo about 29,000, the Kutuzov about 28,000. I was getting some good damaging shots in on a lot of ships. Even the Z-52 took almost 10k from me. And notice the distance traveled, 58 kilometers. That is very good for a battleship in a tier 10 game. And like I said, those two big strengths that this thing has, the ability to flex and the fast reload, makes this kind of battlecruiser-esque playstyle something that I really do enjoy. I've always enjoyed battleships with faster reloads because, if you know gun reloads and you know how quickly ships can make turns, you can catch people off guard, and the Republique is the absolute master of that amongst its battleship contemporaries at the high tiers. So I hope you guys enjoyed this replay. I'll definitely try to get some more Republique gameplay as I've really been enjoying the ship. But we've been trying to do something here starting from last week where we're putting ships on the channel that we haven't really uploaded, or maybe we've only done 1 or 2 videos on in the past. So you might see some more of this Republique. I am working on a Vanguard review and commentary as well because I was gifted that from Wargaming. For my admin services in King of the Seas, which is very generous of them. So I'm going to try to get a review of that Tier 8 British behemoth up sometime in the near future. And with that being said, guys and gals, as always, have a great day.